What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of My Peoples. Make some noise! Y'all know the drill. I am your host, Erica. You can call me E. If this is your first time here in person, welcome. We're so happy to have you. If this is your first time joining us online, welcome. You are now a part of My Peoples, and we're really excited about tonight's conversation. It's going to be very relevant because I know I am not the only person whose Facebook feed has been full of dissenting opinions lately. Shall we say conflict, maybe even some disagreements. But tonight, we're going to talk about how do you actually deal with that? What's the best way to disagree without being disagreeable, if you care about not being disagreeable? We've been taught that polite conversation is admirable, is ideal most of our lives, and yet we know that polite conversation does not win us our freedom, and it doesn't often change the world. So what's the balance? That's what we're gonna talk about tonight with our amazing, amazing guests. Our friends are here. I'm gonna introduce them in a minute. If you're online, I want you to make sure you go to @MyPeoplesTV on Twitter right now, because we're gonna be getting some audience participation from you and from our friends here live tonight. So make sure you go there. Are y'all ready to get started? Yeah? Okay. So you know how we do at My Peoples. We always like to start with some art. So we've got one of my favorite poets. She's amazing. She's here in LA. Please welcome Natalie Patterson. What's up, Natalie?
Do I get to
Good. Good.
I'm messing up time. I'm talking and stuff.
You're fine.
I'm glad to be here because you would think poets get to say what they want to say, but oftentimes that is not always the truth. So I appreciate the opportunity to get to say what I want to say, how I want to say it tonight with you. So something new. We are a nation of opinions. Someone is always talking, which leads me to wonder who is listening. Who is taking note? Who is assuring us that the freedom we were promised is actual? Who among us has quieted their ego enough to simply listen for the hushed cries for help? Let it be me. Let there be 3 wise women or men. Let someone demand silence long enough to hear all the things we miss over the screaming. She was screaming when the cameras arrived. Her child, murdered. His body left for hours on a platform, in a jail cell, or was it in the street? She was screaming. And they called her angry, called her uncontrollable, called her everything but a grieving mother. The cameras say her child was murdered. The judges say the murderer didn't murder, but there are bodies that say differently. Black folks are being exterminated, so why are we not calling this ethnic cleansing? He was innocent. He was innocently walking. He was innocently walking before he wasn't anymore. He was somebody before he was target practice, wasn't he? Wasn't he trying to take the train home? Wasn't she driving with a taillight out? Wasn't she allowed to be opinionated, living, breathing person? Wasn't he a person? He said he couldn't breathe. Was anybody listening? See, I heard them say protests and rebellion solve nothing. Say damaging your own community is nonsensical, but this don't feel like my community. This hunting ground don't feel like no home to me. Do not confuse the fire during a riot as misplaced rage. They are smoke signals to the ancestors begging for the justice our government fails to provide. Was performance art. Find the meaning in the broken glass, in the deconstructed police cars. Find the irony in how quickly tear gas flies from hands meant to protect. Their voices have been ignored, but these burning buildings will not be. Is anybody listening? Or have we just defended and out-talked each other to the point that we have forgotten that we are all trying to survive? Trying to love somebody, all in need of love, all want to have a safe place to relieve ourselves without the fear of being beaten to death for walking into the wrong bathroom. We have long known the face of pedophiles and rapists. They are monsters we know well. People we sleep next to and pretend not to notice the blood in the morning. We ignore or shame our daughters but fail to educate our sons. And the only monsters I have ever known have been men I've loved and women I've trusted and bosses who took advantage of their power and educators who told me I wasn't good enough for their institutions, but they praised me if I increased revenue. Pretend my black ain't visible as long as I defer to them, but let me think I'm somebody. Let me think I create my own value. Let me dare to live a life I love, but let me dare you to be better. And suddenly I am angry and no longer sweet and soulful, no longer a darling pancake suitable for your institutions, but they don't hear me though. We are a nation of opinions that tend to disregard the people our opinions actually impact. Will you seek to understand or just write this off as a long soliloquy? Are you actually doing your best? Will you leave this planet better than you found it? See, I'm asking these questions because it's time. It's time to love again. I want to laugh again. I want to forgive and rectify, to live this life on purpose, with purpose, not just chasing money that inevitably isolates us. I offer you my voice. And this pain, this heartache, I offer you my hand. Please don't let go. I'll stand with you in these trenches. All I ask is that you listen.
She just said some really, really important and relevant stuff about listening and about loving and about communicating and talking, and that is what we are about to dig into tonight. Are y'all ready? Yeah. So I want you to welcome to the stage some amazing, amazing people that I'm delighted to introduce to you all tonight. Please welcome Quddus Philippe, TV host, activist, producer. Nomiki Knost, a TV personality, commentator, and activist. Woo! Actress and activist Shailene Woodley. Woo! Writer, producer, activist, and entrepreneur, Anasa Troutman. And this person is no stranger to our stage here at My Peoples. Please welcome activist and actress Rosario Dawson. All right, y'all, well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm super excited because this is a very real conversation. Every week we say, oh, we're gonna be having real talk. But this topic is very real because disagreement happens. It's a natural part of life. It's a natural part of our relationships, certainly our politics, and it's very heated right now. So I want to start with you, Shailene, because you have a very big, you're not the only person on the stage, but I'll start with you saying that you are one of the people on the stage who has a very big public persona, right? Like you have fans, you have a brand, you have an audience, and frankly, part of your career, and I'd love to know if you agree with this, but from the outside looking in, part of your career depends upon people finding you likable to a certain extent. How do you balance that with speaking your mind?
Well, I'm going to clarify something
Good,
from my
please.
perspective.
That's what I want. We're disagreeing.
We'll just start off disagreeing right off the bat.
Please. What we're here for. Go, tell me.
I've never perceived myself to have a brand. I'm a human being, I'm a creature, and I'm an artist.
Yes.
And that's it.
That's
and my career, for me, has nothing to do with fans. I started acting 20 years ago this year. I started acting when I was 5 years old, which is wild. And I always said as an 8-year-old, I was like, the day I'm on the cover of a magazine, I'm gonna quit, because I don't want it to be about that. I'm an artist, and I don't want my art to be based on the opinions of other people. I want to express. And that's for me, selfishly, and not for anyone else. Fast forward to now, I have a Twitter now. I've got an Instagram like this week for the first time because we're doing a lot of things for Bernie Sanders, and I can capitalize on this platform now that I have to spread the message that I want to spread. But I guess for myself, that I've never seen a risk in saying who I am and presenting who I am, because I'm only one person, and I have to show you exactly who. Like, I don't want to walk a red carpet and wear something and be something, because that feels inauthentic to who I am. And I guess my mission in life is to spread truth and to spread authenticity. And if I'm not walking that talk and I'm preaching it, then who am I? Yeah. So all I know is me, and all I know is how to be me. And I guess that follows in the roles I take as an artist, and that follows in the walk I walk as an activist.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So it sounds like you have a pretty good sense of self, right? Why you're in this work, why you do what you do, and therefore, because of that, don't feel some of that pressure that I was talking about. So then I want to know, how do you interact with people who want to pressure you in that way? Because I assume in the business, right, like you yourself have said, like, I'm rejecting that narrative. I'm rejecting the idea that I'm a brand. But a lot of people want you to be. How do you disagree with them? Like, what does that actually look like for you?
I just show up as me, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to work with people who, I will only surround myself with people in this industry who know me for who I am, and who know when I say, no, I need a break because I'm worn down and my body's tired and I'm sick, they respect that. And work with people who I go, oh, I'm not wearing that brand, and I'm not gonna go talk to that person because they're this person who I actually don't even care about and don't know anything about. And they respect that. When I was 18 years old, I did a film, and I was working for a studio, and they sat me down, and they're like, we're gonna need you to dress a little more cosmopolitan because people are gonna confuse you with your character in the movie. And I was like, first off, I'm 18. I'm not gonna dress cosmopolitan. I don't even know what that means. And from that was really the defining moment for me of, again, if I'm going to share my truth with people, I have to share that truth with myself. And if I'm not going to present something that's authentic to me, then how do I expect other people to reflect their authenticity back? And I want to see people. I want to see the human in them, and I want them to see the human in me.
Yeah.
And I guess I have to walk that talk.
Yeah, that's amazing. Rosario, now you kind of also are, again, you're an actress, but also a very, very vocal, confident activist. What's your response to that conversation about the balance between you needing to speak your mind, particularly around politics and things that matter in the world, and this desire for you to be a brand, which frankly is not just relegated to celebrities. Like, right, in general now, there's this culture where we're all supposed to be brands, and we're all supposed to be likable and selling ourselves to someone. How do you deal with that tension?
I just have to say, you know, I got to meet the wonderful Shailene at just a random sort of thing. She just come from like a premiere or whatever, and she came up to me and she was like, oh my God, Vide, Eve Ensler, can we talk about this? And we just immediately launched into activism. And, you know, I ended up watching the movie later, but I just was so moved by her. She was talking about Native artists that she followed, and, you know, she was talking about being a vegetarian, and she was talking about, you know, wearing eco clothes and like really walking. We had this whole brilliant conversation. Cared about what we cared about and why, and then I started following her. I started watching her and listening to her interviews and watching her on red carpets, not wear major brands, not do that thing that people were. And I was so impressed and moved, and I've been seeing that more and more and more because, you know, I started acting at 15, but there's a totally different pressure. How many times I've been in the cover of a magazine or inside something and watched myself be airbrushed. I didn't ask for it. I didn't do any of that kind of stuff. And I'm looking at it going, I have no pores. That's creepy. That's like scary and creepy. And I have kids telling me, I was like, oh my God, she looks poreless. I'm like, that's not good. That's your largest organ. You need to breathe. Like, that's scary, actually. And, you know, and when I look at, you know, especially younger artists coming up today, because there's such a consciousness that is pervasive, I think, with this next generation. We've seen so many different mistakes. We watched, you know, you look at the flashy music videos and all that kind of stuff. There was a real culture, especially in the 90s and going into the 2000s, this really glossy, especially with the new technology. Ooh, you can airbrush. And it became something people started doing for their own wedding albums and pictures, and, you know, and like distorting their own images and being impressed and excited about the fact that they could. You know, like I remember when, you know, I remember when cell phones started being a thing, and the kids used to take selfies and just like walk up and take a picture and walk away, and the parents were like, oh my God, I didn't raise her like that or him like that, and I'm so ashamed. But within 1 year, the parents were doing the exact same thing. And so I've been watching this for a really long time, and this shift and change. And when I see Zoe Kravitz on the cover of a magazine with her tattoos and her braids, knowing that, like, I was in many ways to capacity kind of forced to hide when I had a shaved head, or like, you know, do certain things or they would do it without my permission to kind of gloss over my personality. It was just an interesting thing. I would almost feel like a bit of a generational divide and a power that's coming in with this next generation, because the entire generation is embracing that. When I'm watching commercials be about them walking around with like shorts and t-shirts and not be in a fancy dress, that's not how I was raised. And that's not how I was raised in this industry. And to see that that's the next flowering of it, where she only just got a cell phone. Like she did not have one at the time. It was like a really big deal. And I remember seeing her in like some like paparazzi thing, and it was like she was holding a cell phone coming out of her car. I was like, she got a cell phone. That was one of the first things I said to you.
Giving us some Lionsgate gave me a cell phone because they're like, we got to be able to track your ass.
Why didn't you have a cell phone?
I had a cell phone, and I was texting one day, and I saw my thumb, and it was buzzing like this, and it wouldn't stop for about a week. And I was like, I'm 20 years old. That is not okay. My nervous system is freaking out because I think the addiction of a part of your an anatomical body that is not used to using that specific nerve, whatever it was, freaked me out. So I was like, let me just see what happens if I get rid of it. But guess what? There's Wi-Fi everywhere. And if you have a computer, you're in contact with people all the time. So you can really get by without a cell phone easily.
Yeah. You know what I'm getting a sense of is that you're able to be the exception within all of this because you're not trying to make anybody wrong for being on their cell phone or having Instagram or whatever
You do
else.
you, boo. I
Yeah.
know how to do me.
And I feel like that's like fundamental to what we're talking about here. Like, how can we disagree without being disagreeable? It's by not making other people wrong just because we have a sensibility that's different. Right?
Yeah, like this didn't bother me because I grew up playing video games. So it was like, I had that switch anyway, but that's, and then getting really mad at my mom because she unplugged my Nintendo. And I was like, what are you doing? So it was like a natural kind of thing. But it's like beautiful to watch this pushback that's happening with young people, especially because my generation and above were so tantalized by this new technology. And I'm watching this pushback of like people coming up and going, no, when we go out to eat, we're gonna put our cell phones and stack them on each other, and the first one to reach for the phone has to pay for it. And that's like a newer thing that people are pushing back because they're so disgusted by the lack of humanity. Like doing events and having people go, oh my God, like hardly anybody was on their cell phone. And it's like, that's how I was raised and I grew up, but the fact that that's a novelty now. And that people are craving, like going, well, all I know is going like this to tattoos and expecting to be able to swipe everything left or right and my approval and like things. Now this new energy is coming up of going, how can we put our cell phones down? How can we connect with each other and create humanity, which is the reason why we have the show.
Exactly. And what I love about that, and also about what you said, is we've talked about authenticity. That seems like that's one core theme. But the second one that you just brought up is about not making someone else necessarily be wrong because they disagree with you. I want to pull you in here, Nomiki, because you're part of your job, right? Like you are a TV commentator. It's one of many things that you are, but part of your job is to debate.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? I mean, sometimes you are telling people you're wrong. I know I feel like that all the time. I want to say, no, you're wrong. Is that okay?
Well, yes, I do it all the time, and especially during election season, it's incredibly frustrating because the energy is set up to be that way. I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, so it's definitely set up to be that way. So it's set up to be that way, and I think, especially in the media, as we all know, they want the best story, they want the ratings, and so they'll invite people on that can push up against each other. And I've been doing debates since I was 12 years old, and I did it all the way through college. So it's very natural to me, and my parents encourage that kind of conversation at the table. But I think right now in the election, I'm noticing it's spilling over into my life. Even though I only do 2, 3, 4 segments a day that are 3-5 minutes, I walk out and I'm fuming, and I'm on Twitter and I'm like, what'd you just say to me? And I'm continuing the fight on Twitter. And it's, and then everybody else is engaging, and there's Bernie's army, and they're going up against Hillary's army or Trump's army. And so it's like a battle. And battles are necessary. I have to say, civil disobedience is still disobedience. And I try to go in there and I try to talk about the facts. I'm not always going to we're not going on air to have some sort of agreement. So I go in there and I'll bring up the facts. And if someone distorts the facts, I'm not afraid to call out those facts. But that's theater. In the real world, my background's in politics. So, some of the things that we do in messaging trainings is if we're talking to someone, if we're approaching a voter who is undecided or doesn't agree with us and we want to influence them, we always find a common bond. So we were out canvassing. We're on this bus tour right now, going across California. Sorry if we smell.
Luckily, it's not 4D.
Exactly. And we're approaching voters on the streets. And I can't tell you how many times there's been a voter who says, well, I don't like what Bernie has to say, but I like this one thing about him. Or they're saying, no, I'm not interested. And I'll just look at them and I'll be like, what's the one issue you care about? and they'll mention that issue. And then I'll try to find some sort of link into that. It could be as simple as, you know, we both come from the same town, we both have kids in the same school, let's talk about the school. It could be like, we both like the same movie. But you have to find a point of connection, and then you expand out. You bring them into your circle, is what we say in the political strategy world, and then you expand to the outer circle.
Right.
And I think that's a really good trick to find a way to disagree without being confrontational.
Yeah, and part of that is about finding a sense of shared humanity, right? We're all humans. What is that thing that we can connect with? And I want to bring you in with that, Anasa, because I know part of your work is really, I shouldn't even say part, all of your work is about love, right? So you are, what title should I give you for all of the work that you do for India Arie, right? Like you run her company, you are, and India Arie, as we know, is a musician who is unique in the industry in terms of being forward and out front about love and humanity and kindness. That's your whole thing, right? Talk to us about that.
Well, it's really, honestly, it's my spiritual practice. Everything to me is about love at its core. And the conversation about disagreement and how you disagree, like if you always start from that place of love, then anything you say after that, anything you say, anything, opinion, any disagreement can be not gentle, but respectful. Because we are all humans. We are all one big human family. That's the whole thing about this, right? So the question really is, how do you approach someone with whom you don't agree, but still honor their humanity? And the fact that they have a right to their opinion, even if you, in your heart, toenails know that they are completely wrong. Like being right is different than having to die on that rightness. You know what I mean? Like you can be like, I know that what you just said is completely crap, but but I still honor your humanity and your right to have that opinion, and we can disagree, and you can battle and debate and even go as far as to fight, but then you do that with certain rules, knowing that this is the person that you have to love.
What are your rules? What are your rules?
To be honest.
Yeah.
That's the only rule that matters, is to be honest, like for real honest. Not like I'm gonna cuss you out because I'm afraid of you. I'm gonna call you names because I'm scared. I don't want to hear what you have to say, but like, what is the truth? Like, what's the truth? What's the truth? Like, what you have to say, it scares me. I don't like what you have to say. You make me feel like I don't matter. Like, I don't like what you did because it triggers this part of my mind that makes me remember that time when I didn't think I mattered, where I think my voice wasn't important. Like, you know, like be honest, be honest. Like, and I think that so many arguments and so much of what's going on right now is like people lying to themselves about what they really believe, lying to themselves about what they really want to see, lying to themselves about why they want to see it. Come on, like just be honest. Be honest, because that's like how you love yourself. Is by honoring who you are, what you really like. First of all, taking the time to know what you actually believe in, learning how to articulate it. Number one, and then having the courage to be that at all times, and having the courage to tell other people what that looks like for you in a kind and loving way. You don't have to yell. You don't have to yell.
Did y'all see the commencement speech that brother from Harvard gave?
Yes.
That was like the greatest example of what you're talking about, because he was challenging the education system that he was on the podium of.
That's right.
So right in the midst of it, he was speaking his truth.
For those that didn't see, this was a graduate at Harvard, the School of Education. He was a valedictorian, I believe, and he was on stage, and he did a spoken word piece for his speech. And basically in it, I mean, as beautiful and nice as it was, he was challenging the institution. He was challenging Harvard. He was challenging the U.S. education system at large. He was challenging all the teachers before that had told him he didn't matter, that didn't teach him history. But it was like in their face and yet still so just beautiful.
I didn't see it, but did he do it with compassion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a smile the whole time.
Yeah.
But that's what you can do when you are self-defined.
Right.
And when you're truly authentic, because you know it doesn't matter, like I don't care what you think, I know what I think.
It's the old Buddhist philosophy, know thyself.
That's right.
You have to start there first.
That's right.
And then build outward. No one's gonna tell you, no corporation, no company, no brand label, no celebrity, no offense, is gonna tell you who you are. You're gonna know who you are, and that takes work, and that takes silence, and that takes compassion. That takes trial and error. It gets messy.
Yeah.
It's not always fun.
Bravery, forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
It takes forgiveness for you first.
Yep.
And then for the people around you.
Yeah.
Because you get hurt. Like, you get hurt. When you are honest and you learn what vulnerability really is and the real power in that, you get hurt. You get hurt.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, that's cool. It doesn't mean anything about me. I just got hurt.
Absolutely.
It's cool.
And then you get
moving.
more courageous as you go.
That's right.
Every time
That's
you
right.
get hurt, it gets easier.
That's right.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got a lot of pushback to some of this, just to play devil's advocate. But we're gonna take a break right now because we like to do some art. So right now, is Jarrod here? Awesome. Okay, so I've got a treat for you all. We like to, when we have these real intense conversations, break it up with a little bit of laughter and joy. So I want to welcome to the stage actor, comedian, writer, producer, and the star of The Carmichael Show, Jarrod Carmichael.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. We here?
You can be wherever you want.
Okay, I'm making sure. You guys, I don't know if I can interrupt now. You guys are really, this is like real. Like, very honest. This is way more intense than anything I have to talk about. Nothing half as interesting. I don't know. Like, we're in the heartbeat of it right here. Like, you guys still believe Bernie has a chance. That, like, yeah, you can feel it. Yeah, I know. Look, yeah, hope is dope. What's that?
That's a nerve, bro. Come on.
That's a nerve. Listen, man, we gotta be prepared, okay? All right. At what point does this turn into an emergency meeting? Like it's just like we can't just pretend. What are we gonna do? Just walk in? I'm not gonna let you do that to yourselves. I know we're here in the big enchilada, but it's not. We gotta you prepare. What are we gonna do next? I don't know. We could move, or at least we could say it. That's got to be worth something, right? I'm gonna move. I'm gonna go to Canada. Have you spent time in Canada? Woo! It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But I'm telling you, after a couple months, you start to miss ruthless ambition. I'm telling you, you need it. We all need it. You think you don't need it? We all need it. Live in LA. Ruthless ambition serves us. You know how I know I'm fully LA now? Is because I have a favorite juice shop. And I realized that any of my friends could betray me at any moment. Once you accept that, you're fine. What should I talk about before I leave? I don't know what's gonna connect. Love. Love?
Love.
Oh, love, man. I'm the last. I think love is built on lies. Look, that's also the name of my new jazz album. Love. I don't know. Just makes me want to go do something. I don't know. Feel like, be involved in some shit. Maybe I could give back. I should give back to more black organizations. I don't. Just because I don't like the names. I don't connect, if we're being honest. United Negro College Fund. I don't know any Negroes. Especially not any United ones. I would give thousands to the Send a Nigga to School Fund. I know a lot of niggas that should go to school. They're smart enough to. What's wrong with you? What should we leave on? I don't know. Like a prayer? Trump, are you ready? But are you though? But okay, because you gotta actually genuinely prepare for that just in case. That's a real thing that could happen. I mean, we can't just pretend. He can't. Twitter's not gonna stop him. We gotta actually. He's a real person with a lot of money. Even if he's overestimated, he still has a lot of money. And if he wins, I don't know, man. Look, we still got each other. I don't think any of us should be surprised. It's America. What do you expect? America does shit like this. We sometimes, throw a wild card in there. It's part of it. You sign up for this shit. We lied about a moon landing. We don't have time. I really wish we had time. I really don't think, that's just a personal, every time we landed was under the Nixon administration. Don't get me started. I've shut down many a barbecue with these. Actually, it actually makes me love America more, knowing that we maybe lied about it. That's so American. Like, actually going to the moon is kind of Japanese when you think about it. It's a real Japanese thing to do. Use science to further your country. Lying about a moon landing is American as fuck. That's so American, man. I like to imagine like a room full of scientists trying to figure out how to get to the moon. And then one American dude just walked in and looked around and was like, let's just tell these motherfuckers we went. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
All right.
I have to say something was really interesting, because you said the Twitter thing, and immediately you went, that's something you said, right? And I'm thinking what you mean is the amazing panel that I was able to put together with my friend, another of my peoples, Ann Kleinhens, and in Harlem with with Michelle Alexander and Tessa Thompson and my friend Donna Hilton, who just is only out of incarceration 4 years, and myself, and we had a really brilliant conversation on just the issues facing us as women and women of color and just people. And I was at the very end of the conversation, I was asked a question by a very disenchanted voter who was criticizing my brother's keeper. And we went into a dialogue and we were talking about, because she was asking about what the difference was between, the hope fatigue people got after Obama and that now being used as a rallying call for Bernie Sanders, and what's the big difference between them. And I speak very quickly, and I had made a pivot because, I had just found out that Twitter is only 10 years old, right? And the first tweet to ever come out of the White House was on the Obama administration. And I made a thing talking about the difference between them was the fact that he had this mobilization behind them, but that he didn't continue it in a way that could have affected going into the midterm elections and beyond. And I made a caveat and understandably, to his credit, Twitter's only 10 years old. Making a sort of just general comment, because I've actually had this conversation multiple times about and there's Rolling Stone articles and all the things that talked about the disenchantment that hit after Obama became president. People started getting emails about the Affordable Care Act and not about the midterm elections. And so the next election cycle actually had a 72-year low of voter turnout, which is very dramatic coming from a Hope candidate and then going into a second term. So all of this is going through my brain, and I just went pivot, but to his credit, Twitter's only 10 years old, and it's just sort of as an idea to kind of wrap around about the reality about the differences of this moment, is that people are using social media to communicate with each other directly in a way that we haven't seen before. It wasn't just a leader sending out emails, but it was people talking to each other in real time, so much so that we saw the Egyptian uprising coming out of it. So that's what all of those things are going through my head. And then the media portrayed, Rosario said he didn't use Twitter enough, and that's why there were problems, and it was just like ridiculous, to the point where you just brought it up and made a point of it, and that's not at all what I was talking about.
I was remembering a rally actually where you were making the point that it's not enough to tweet about Bernie Sanders. We got to go out and actually vote. That's what I remember.
Yeah. But it's talking about still that reality about the communication though being so important. And so, well, that's cool actually, because that's great, and I appreciate that, and that makes me happy.
We all gonna disagree on this.
No, but still, even in all of it, it just made me think about that though. When you just said as a side, didn't you say something about that on Twitter? I was like, what? And it was fascinating because this has been something that I've learned in this whole process of putting myself out there for a candidate, which I've never endorsed before, and watching how the media uses these narratives and twists what people say. No, I'm saying, talking about you're on there and the debates that she gets into, and the reason why she gets into the debates is because it is theater, it's entertainment. And we have figured out a long time ago, since the Freudian times, that people are moved by emotion and not necessarily by facts. And so that is what is used to divide people, because as long as we're divided and arguing about these little petty things, we don't actually have the traction to mobilize and do the real things that we need to do. And so that's where Twitter then becomes a mess of just conversation and likes and stuff like that, rather than the tool that as it was used in the Egyptian uprising. And that's the sort of, it was fascinating watching how this amazing panel that was had by some really brilliant minds was then distorted and dismissed because one line was taken out of context and then that was run with as a narrative that ended up being really hurtful to the conversation we were actually trying to have.
Well, what I love about Twitter, just to counter that, is the counter narrative. This perfect example. Donald Trump did this thing a few weeks ago, you may have heard, where he gave Bernie Sanders the label Crazy Bernie. Within like 30 seconds, Twitter, all the young people on Twitter pretty much, shut it down, turned it around, like showed all these pictures of these quotes and these memes of Einstein and Steve Jobs, where they were called crazy, but crazy people changed the world, and he just stopped doing it. He doesn't really call him Crazy Bernie that much anymore, and if so, it's not really sticking. But not to make it about Bernie Sanders. There is something amazing about Twitter that I love, and that's that it's not top-down. Campaigns and organizational efforts have been a candidate or a poll-tested message being sent out with a perfect title, 5 more days and we're doomed, the world's gonna end, or Donald Trump said this, respond to this, sign this petition, and it's on their terms. Twitter goes in and it's a force of nature. I mean, it's a force of nature around movements, organizing, meet us here in 5 minutes. How many times on our bus tour have we said, hey guys, we're showing up here 30 minutes before, and people show up?
Okay, but let me ask you this, because that's amazing and true. But I also think that Twitter and social media in general have, they've made it harder to disagree, right? Like, when was the last time you had an effective, respectful, productive disagreement on social media? Please tell me.
I did on that specific thing with the Twitter stuff. It was interesting, but it took a long time. But it was like someone said, I can't believe you said that, and blah, 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 blah. And then you'd have to send it, well, look at this article, actually. This is not from me just making it up. This is actually facts, because I've actually been doing voter registration for 11 years. So I remember this very specifically at the time, because we were trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Right.
So I'm going back from memory, not just saying something out of my head and sending people articles and doing whatever, and finding someone who did 20 tweets later, then they go, okay, well, maybe I jumped the gun. But like, to take that time and have Twitter arguments, that was one of the things I had to figure out when I first got on there. I used to have Twitter arguments all the time. Be like, no, because it's 127 characters or less. It's a really difficult way to have a conversation or a debate that's constructive at all.
But see, when do you decide, and not even just social media, in life? Like, this is one of the things my mother used to have to always tell me, because I can be very argumentative, right? And so if somebody challenges me, I always take the bait. And I'm not just talking about social media. I've learned I don't play with trolls on social media, but in real life I do. Right? When do you decide whether to engage someone or not about a disagreement?
If they seem somewhat educated, maybe.
But that's not realistic, because I mean, everybody isn't educated.
Education profiling?
Yeah. I mean, forget the internet. I'm talking about in real life.
What you mean by engage?
Yeah.
Because you can, I mean, saying blah, blah, blah is different than being like, what?
Right,
you know
right,
what I mean? Like, what do you mean engage?
And if you speak your truth, and also recognizing, like for me, when I'm engaged with someone, and it feels like we're at that point where clearly we're going to have to agree to disagree. Because moving forward, we're not both, I'm not going to convince you, you're not going to convince me. And then even that statement alone, breaking it down, that all comes back to ego, which is what you mentioned in your poem. Like, ego is the core, I think, of disagreement, right? Because if you really know who you are and what your truth is, then you can sit there with your arms backwards and say, bring it, because I want to hear you. I want to give you the platform to be heard and to be listened to. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with what you say, but my job isn't here to convince you of anything.
Right.
My job is to be here to speak my truth, show up for who I am, and if that inspires you and if that alters your opinion a little bit, then that's great. But I'm not here to be like, oh, this is who I am because I want you to change. That's not how change is. Like, you look at any big movement, you break it down into big movements. Like, Martin Luther King, he wasn't going out there trying to force his opinion on other people. He was going out there saying, this is my truth.
Right.
This is what I believe is right. This is what the thousands of people behind me think is right.
Yep.
what do you say to that? You know?
And to bring it back to the TV point,
Y'all can clap. It's okay.
to bring it back to the TV point, one thing that, the arguments on TV, I'm not trying to convince that woman, but I know that there are people listening.
Right.
And so just getting that truth out there, using it as a vehicle of truth. And I think the same thing with Twitter. Sometimes engaging in public discourse. You may not be convincing that person on Twitter, but people are watching and they're listening and they're seeing those arguments. And then that multiplies and it becomes contagious because the more people speak their truth, maybe that person wasn't on board, but somebody else who influences them heard what you said and can influence that person. It may not be you, but there are other people who can be those vehicles of truth as long as we're all speaking our truth.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of value in that because I think about what actually gets traction with content, what people are compelled by and moved by emotionally, and it tends to come from that kind of charge.
Yeah.
Like if it's just sort of like a passive conversation where there's not really a counterpoint, it's sort of like flaccid. And people are just like, all right, I agree. And it's not something that really like tugs at you.
You need the tension.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see how well y'all put this into practice. So we have asked our audience tonight to submit questions, thoughts, moments where they actually disagreed with something that's been said so far. So let's see what we've got here. I'm gonna try, if I can read, I hope y'all have good handwriting. I'm gonna try to read someone's name. Let's see. I'm trying, sorry y'all. I gotta both be able to read it.
Disagreed with that one.
I disagreed with how you wrote your name.
That's toast for this.
Host prerogative.
That's how you politely disagree.
I just keep it going. Y'all don't follow rules. These are beautiful statements, though. Someone wrote the rules of love. Show up. Who wrote this? Sam? Where's Sam? Sam here? Sam, stand up.
Yes, Sam.
Hey. Sam, tell us your rules of love while I try to find a good disagreement in this bin. Tell us your rules of love.
Well, I actually can't take credit for this, but it comes from Bill Moyers, and it came to me through a spiritual mentor of mine, Ed Bacon, at All Saints Church in Pasadena. But basically, it was just an expansion on what you were saying. As you were talking about, what are the rules for love? And you said, be honest. And one of them's on there. But Bill Moyers talks about how all of the enduring world wisdom traditions and religions boil down to basically 4 points. And it's show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and don't be attached to the results. And I think that's what you're getting at.
Attachment.
The whole sense of like, I might not change your mind. I might not, my job is not to convince you, so I can't be attached to that result. But I know that there are other results going beyond me and like other people that might be impacted by it. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Aldre, is Aldre in the room? Am I saying the name right? Aldre? Aldre, okay. All right. I like what you wrote. Share what you said.
I don't believe in wrong.
Aldre doesn't believe in wrong. So we've been talking about you don't have to tell someone they're wrong. That's a pretty big statement there. He doesn't believe in wrong. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm a very spiritual person. I always put God first. And one thing that it says in the Bible, although I don't Bibles come from Bibles, but although it says thou shalt not judge. That's not our job to. That's God's job to. In my eyes anyway. But if somebody else believes different, then it's different. I don't look at them different. I don't say anything different to them. It's like, kudos to you. But for me, it's like she says, our truth.
Yeah.
And that's love right there. You can't, if you can understand somebody, you don't have to challenge it. Just understand them. It's not about the challenge. It's about to understand. Oh, I get your point. I don't even really have to say mine, but if I feel free and I feel open to, then I will. But I got your point, and that's the important thing is to make people feel important. Because if you bash somebody, like me and my friends, we all support individuality. So it's like when you're an individual person, we love that. And then there's other people who try to fit in. But I always use this as a thing. Like, when you're a kid and when you have dirty shoes, like where I'm from LA, but from the hood of LA, not the juice place. When you have dirty shoes or something, people make fun of you. But I remember when I was a kid and kids had dirty shoes, I would tell them, don't make fun of him, his shoes have character. It's just different. It's not,
it's just different, and it's okay to be different. And I think in this world, in society, America is what I know, we all sit around and just be like, you're wrong, those are ugly, this is ugly. But me and my group of friends, we want to promote individuality. So we want everybody to be completely themselves.
Yeah.
And then when you
Yeah.
can be completely yourself,
Thank you.
You just described utopia.
I know. I was like, I want to live in that world.
He did. But here's my thought about that, because that's, I mean, from a spiritual standpoint, that makes perfect sense, right? And I think what we are trying to do is create a world that reflects that spiritual truth.
It's hard to sit in that when people get hurt.
Thank you.
It's hard to sit in that when people are being killed or insulted
Thank you.
You know, because for me, I always say, like, spitting on someone and killing them comes from the same place.
Yeah.
Like that lie of disconnection, that lie that we're not the same, like, you can do a wide range of things. And so it would be amazing if we could just be like, because I agree with him, like, they're wrong, like, there isn't really a wrong. I think that most people don't wake up like, I'm gonna hurt someone today. I think they wake up and sometimes they're assholes and they hurt people, but they don't wake up like, I can't wait to piss somebody off. Like, I don't think that's how people are. So like, wrong is a judgment that's not really a real thing, but like, people get hurt. People get hurt.
Yeah, I love that, because it really is like, it's bringing us to a level of understanding and compassion about how hurt people hurt people.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
The
right.
bully is always bullied.
Yep.
Yeah.
The bully is never a bully just to be a bully.
And there's also a such thing as people who are like spiritually and or emotionally immature.
Yeah.
Like, we have to leave room for that. Like, everybody is not as sophisticated as, everyone is not on the same level of sophistication emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. So some people are going to do stuff that I might be like, whoosh, that was, okay. You know?
I'm struggling with this idea. I mean, this is great. I'm just really struggling with this idea of there not being wrong, right? Like, killing an unarmed teen, wrong, right? Like
where's empathy
You set
in
an
that
example.
too? Like,
you can have empathy for something being, like, you can have empathy and understanding why that wrong thing happened, but it's not going to change whether or not I believe that's wrong. Right, like I can
You're
understand.
talking about an act, though, that's wrong versus a person that's wrong.
Right.
Absolutely, and I'm not talking about a human being wrong, but I am talking about a human doing something wrong. Yes, absolutely.
I think, is that different than what you were saying? You don't believe any humans are wrong?
Writing it down, I knew somebody would say something like that.
Good. This is what we want.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody would be like,
disagree.
oh, what if somebody gets
gets killed or something.
Right.
But like I said, it's God's job to be like, to judge that man and say that you're wrong for doing that, because we don't know. He could have, in that situation, he could have honestly been scared. And I'm black, so and I've had my trouble with the police. But it's like, honestly, he could have truly been scared. It makes sense, but it's just like, we want him to be like, oh, more of a man, and be like, well, you shouldn't have shot him. But that was just his reaction. Now, is it wrong? It's not me to judge. It's God again.
Or is it the institute? I mean, if you're going to take it into that point of view, is it the institution that's making those acts wrong and putting the person in that position to do a wrong act? The person is a victim of the institution, I believe, personally. So if you're going to look at that example in particular, and you could say the same thing about the police. I mean, they're a product of an institution. So when a police officer commits a bad act, my personal belief system is they are a product of an institution that's teaching them that that's okay, or encouraging it, or training them that way.
And we're all products of that. And so, I mean, we're born into a society that teaches us to be fearful of everything and each other. To be fearful of our own courage, to be fearful of our own individuality, to conform. So there isn't a dialogue, there isn't a narrative in which we're taught empathy as kids. Where's the education? In our elementary schools, in our middle schools, where kids are taught empathy. The ability to look at another person and not judge them, but accept them for who they are. That's something that's missing. I mean, that's out of the conversation right now. When you look at all of these shootings, when you look at, you think of like mental illness, and you're like, but where's the empathy from what that person experienced in their life? And I think that at the core, if we're really going to break down how we're going to fix this country, it's that. It's compassion. It's recognizing the self in someone else as a child. Because we're not taught that. We're taught to be fearful, and we're taught to hate, and we're taught to take things and keep them and hoard things because they're ours, and we're disconnected from nature on a fundamental level of which we're all connected to. So I don't think we have the tools. A lot of people don't have the tools growing up to know how to live in a society with all this hatred and with all this fear. And then when they're confronted with something in which they're maybe in a situation where they're scared, they don't have the proper, heartful education that says, take a deep breath, ground in what's your truth. And And you know, as adults, we can have this conversation, but we have to start with the kids. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we have to be.
Yeah.
I got something encouraging for you, actually. I just read an article about how there's actually some emotional intelligence courses being offered. They're piloted in certain schools now. So imagine where that's a core part of the curriculum, where every kid gets taught emotional intelligence at a young age, is able to resolve their own emotional strife and be able to share, get it off their chest in a way that doesn't end up in a fight in the courtyard or whatever have you. And then there's a space for that empathy in every school, and I think that's gonna happen.
And we got to push that on our lawmakers to make that happen. We were at we learned some statistics on our trip this week.
Oh my gosh, this is so good.
So frustrating. That the funding, you know, when you're saying, oh, your lawmakers are saying, we're putting all this money into education. Well, we found out that a lot of schools in California in particular, public schools, colleges and high schools and middle schools.
And elementary schools.
And elementary schools, right, 10 years old.
10 years old.
Are being, the majority of the funding is going to
92%.
92% is going to police force, to militarizing those zones so that they can control
security.
The kids. Not to school books, not to teachers,
Arts programs,
to arts programs,
health manager, health,
to
therapy,
PE,
mental health,
Honest
counseling.
curriculum.
right?
How about that?
So not only are they not getting
Honest
funding,
curriculum.
but they're putting it into law enforcement.
Yeah.
But we're creating trauma. Like, you know, the emotional intelligence movement's been going on for a long time, and the pushback against IQs being more important than EQs. But we haven't been teaching critical thinking or critical heart thinking for a really long time. And that's the part that really makes a difference, so that we are actually, our lens with which we perceive the problems and issues and things around us is filtered through what we have been taught, which is trauma, which is divisiveness, which is other, which is bad and wrong. So that, like, when I'm standing in healing circles, we just came back from Summit, and we're sitting in this women's panel. All the women are talking and grieving about the issues about being women and how that affects us and the systems that exist around it. And, you know, I listened to everybody, and then at the end, and I was like, you know, what's really interesting is that you're still looking at your personal self through the lens of being a woman. Of course, that's what we are in this life. But this is the car that I drive. And, like, you know, the reality is I'm made from man and woman like every other human being on this planet. I am equally man and woman. And so we are constantly going, you know, we're trying to figure out what kind of feminine we are or what kind of masculine we are. And so we're not allowing our boys to be emotional, and like Eve Ensler says, then they cry those tears in bullets rather than in tears. And so it's like you have all these different lenses, but again, it's like I can't keep looking at this problem in that sense, because this next generation especially is growing this consciousness that's coming up, is recognizing that we are, because we are man and woman equally, then when we are born, we are on the spectrum of that.
Okay,
We express that in our gender expressions. We express that in, like, today I'm more masculine or today I'm more feminine, whatever you want to be in tune with. But, like, we're just existing on that spectrum of what that is to the smallest cell on the planet, which is the sperm, and the largest cell is an ovum, comes together and decides to divide and divide and divide. That's what we are, is that magic in between. And when we start connecting to that, then we can really get into the conversation of EQ and IQ and all that kind of stuff, because we're no longer looking at ourselves through this weird filter that determines how we should even express our pain, how we should even express our issues and our wrongness and right.
So if that's not currently, for the most part, being taught in school, it's not being taught by our media, and yet it's essential for us to be able not just to communicate with one another, but to disagree with love and to be able to kind of change the world around us. Where do you learn that? Where did each of you learn this? Whatever this consciousness is for you, where did you each develop it and learn it?
I had to take a workshop. Offbeat workshop, and it worked. Had me in tears, forgiving my father. I mean, it was a come to Jesus moment.
As an adult.
As an adult. Yep. But yeah, again, it's like, if we could have that in class and really work that out early, oof, I would have saved a lot of strife in my 20s, let me tell you.
Okay, so you took a workshop. Nasa, what about you?
So I'm sitting here racking my brain like, who told me that? But I don't know if anybody ever told me. I think I've always been like this. It's just who I am. But I teach it to people every day. Like, my sneakers, I have on custom sneakers. One of them says live and one of them says love on the back, because that's just who I am. And it's like, really, like, my mission in life is to be love. So anything, any work I do, any conversation I have, any interaction, like, my goal is to leave the person feeling loved. So I teach it as often as I can, because Like, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and if this conversation about wrong, it's like, what if we stopped using the word wrong and just said it's out of alignment?
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then like, but out of alignment with what? Like, what is our common goal as a human family? Like, what is our goal? And like, are the things that we're doing in alignment or out of alignment with that goal? And if you find yourself out of alignment or you encounter someone else who's out of alignment, how do you pull them back in line without judging them, without making them wrong, without being violent towards them, how do you do that? Like, how do we do that and how do we teach it? Because most people don't know how to do that. Most people don't even know that's a thing.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So how, where, how? Like at home, in a workshop, at class? Like,
that's why I'm asking. Where y'all
like
learned it?
where?
There's one answer. I don't think there's one answer. I mean, some people arrive on this moment
on TV,
of pain and suffering, and they're just so desperate for help that they look for it. Some people learn it by example. I mean, your mother, father, somebody teaches your grandmother. Some people, it's a workshop. I think every human has their own experience and their own path to that situation, and there's no one answer. I mean,
well, I think
I want to know yours, though. Like, I want to know yours.
Oh, mine.
Yeah, I want to know yours.
I mean, I don't think there was a single aha moment, but a friend of mine passed away about a decade and a half ago. I was supposed to go on this road trip, and I was organizing it because we were planning on going to Cuba, and we were learning how to scuba dive. And I was going to take another car. And she went with another group of people, and they were in 2 cars, and one of the cars flipped over, and everybody in that car passed away. And I mean, everybody's had deaths in their family, but she was 22 years old, and there was another girl who also died that was 22 years old, Danica. So it was Lauren Soto and Danica, and then the gentleman who was driving, who I didn't know, passed away 6 months later. And it was just such a deeply depressing moment in my life. I mean, everything shut down. Our whole entire community shut down of friends, and I couldn't function. And I remember I lived in Tucson, Arizona. I was sitting on the balcony of my grandmother's house looking at the stars with a friend of mine, and I could feel her vibrating around me in passing. And I'm sure we've all had similar spiritual experiences like that. And that's when I was like, oh no, she's still here. Her body's not there. Her soul's still here. I feel her energy. All of our energies are connected. I feel your energy even if I close my eyes, I can feel it. I can feel you over here. I can feel you over here. Oh, there's something bigger here.
Yeah.
I want to know more. And then that was it.
I just had a big aha moment.
Oh, let's hear it.
Give it.
So I was sitting here listening to you talk, and I realized that nobody ever had to teach me to love other people, but I had to learn to love myself. That was like, and that took a long time, and I'm not even sure I'm all the way there yet, but that was like the big lesson. And there's like something about loving yourself that grounds and settles you in a way that you don't have to fight, you know? And so like that to me is the question, like, where do we teach people how to love themselves? Because all other love radiates from that place. Like if you have that jamming out like that, then you like, it's so much love outside of you is possible if you have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so much is possible.
I love that. I love that. Anyone else? The reason, and let me just tell you why I asked that question, because you know, I have been both as a moderator or a host, but also frankly for years as an audience member, watching people who appear so inspirational and just so amazing and so almost perfect, right? Then you leave and you've got this buzzing and you're like, that's great. Anasa talked about love, I want to love, and then you go home.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I grew up in church. That was like the MO, right? Like you go and you're like, this is so high and I'm here. And then you leave and it's like, but dang, how do I live like Jesus? I don't know. You know, and so it's very important, I think, when we have these conversations that we not just talk about who you are, but how you got there. How did you become that? And you're right, it may not be one moment, but it's interesting to reflect and think, because if part of why we're here is that we want to share this experience with other people, how can someone watching adopt this understanding of love? How can someone watching figure out how to elevate their EQ? How can someone watching figure out, okay, tomorrow when I'm on my Facebook page and someone is telling me that my Black life doesn't matter, how do I have the peace to not respond or to respond in a better way? That's the practical that we want to pull out.
Though, because it's not just how you do it yourself, but it's also how you scale that up to the level of institution. Because there is such a thing as institutional racism and sexism and violence and police state. There is all that stuff, and sometimes just being like, but I love myself is not enough.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like that's the question, like how does it translate to this, from this to this, because that's right.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, it's a systematic thing that we definitely need to resolve. And I see encouraging things. Like I heard about a senator that managed to get meditation classes.
Tim.
Yes.
Tim, you know?
Yes.
But this man, he managed to
Congressman
get
Tim.
people in the White House to go to a meditation class. I think that's part of the solution, something practical. And I think something you touched on is so relevant about how, you know, this notion about what it means to be a man actually keeps a lot of men from realizing that we're hurt.
Yes.
And that it's okay to be in that and actually explore that and heal that.
Yes.
Like it's like the anti-macho thing to say, like, I feel some type of way right now.
Yeah.
Like really though, like I want to cry right now. You know what I mean? Like that, you'd be called a punk, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's what we need. Like men need a space to have that. Women, I feel like, are more evolved because you guys get together and you are able to have that conversation.
I agree.
There's no stigma around it. I know what I am. I'm on a panel full of women. But really, I mean, I tell you what, a big part of my process has been allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let it out. If I gotta cry, I'm gonna cry. I'm not gonna judge myself for it because that's part of my healing process. But if we keep that bottled up, men, we are gonna be like ticking time bombs.
Yes.
We are gonna be tackling somebody on a football field way harder than we need to. And we won't even know why. We won't even be conscious of it. That's what's crazy. So much of this is like underneath the hood. We're not even conscious of how aggressive we're being sometimes. I heard about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I've been around Johnny and he seems like the most gentle man. And then I hear about the situation with Amber Heard this week. And so it brings me to wonder, like, if it's possible in that moment, it's possible with any of us. We all have stuff to resolve, you know?
I think that brings it back to self-love in a way of like, when the concept of when you love yourself, and self-love it's not something we have to achieve, like, it's something we just have to remember, like, we are love, we are happiness, we are life. Like, we don't have to find happiness or keep happiness, but finding those ways, you allowing yourself to feel what you feel, that is self-love. And when you take the time to do that, then you can fully experience someone else. Because if you're constantly battling your own battles in your head, you can't actually show up for someone because you're too busy worrying about you.
Yep.
And so if you take it to institutional level, if you take it there,
Preach.
and you're reading these things on Facebook or whatever, if you've taken the time, even if it's a minute in the morning, to ground in with yourself or let yourself feel how you feel. When you're reading that statement and you recognize, I'm getting heated up right now. I'm feeling emotional right now. I'm feeling angry right now. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling exhilarated, celebratory. That is self-love, and then you can fully be present to respond from an authentic place.
And also what choices you have.
Yeah.
Because if you're realizing that you can choose a response as opposed to just have it, and it just erupt from you out of control, because oftentimes I think we think that we're getting control, we're gaining control by doing it, but we're actually losing control. Well, we think we're losing control, we're trying to gain control, is actually it. And because we can't quantify it, because we haven't deciphered what we're actually feeling. So I think it's really when it goes into perspective. What perspective do you have? If you realize you're upset, then you can go, well, I'm upset right now. Do I respond right now, or do I take a deep breath and go for a walk first and then come back?
Right.
But when you just let yourself go and you're in the space of like, I have to take control, then you're losing yourself. I feel for me, like you're talking about where it came from, like it's as a child experiencing abuse and seeing abuse and realizing I had to articulate it, that someone couldn't just come and take care of me as a kid. And then also looking to forgive the people who were abusers and looking at them and going, you might not get it in this lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just really what it is. Like, you know, we have a lot to learn, and perspective is a gift. And you might not get it in this experience that I'm having. We shared it, but we had it from really different perspectives, and you might not get what you did to me and how that affects me and what I'm gonna have to do to resolve that. And the systems that we would exist, which again, looking at it again, going out and going, well, as a man, and you women have women groups to talk to, but we have, because when you talk to women, they go, the systems that exist, it took hundreds of years to create that institutionalism, that were men's groups coming together and systematically taking that down. Like, it's just having the perspective so that we're not going, well, as a woman and I go to the Middle East and I have to wear this thing, and it doesn't take anything away from you because you recognize how long it took for that system to exist. And for how long it took for the system to exist, where I could have my perspective and go, I'm an American, I'm a New Yorker, I'm used to saying whatever the hell it is that I want, and going, oh, I don't have to do that against you. It's not like actually progress or like amazing for me to wear shorts and a t-shirt, tank top and a Medina. That's like, what does that mean? It's because we're in different spheres. You actually created mathematics and science, and then we're degraded in our history stories. And now we're up here at this remarkable perspective where I can come over here and judge you.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, we stole resources and people and degraded your progress in order for us to have this uppity perspective of like, I get the freedom of wearing shorts. What does that really mean? It's just the perspectives.
Yeah,
And ultimately, when we're arguing as men and women, if we just recognize at the heart of it, it's about respect and justice. That's all we're really talking about. And we can relate anything on that. Man, woman, young, old, culture, whatever it is, history, whatever it is. At the end of the day, I've had different injustices done to me and different disrespects or disrespects. And if I can understand that that's what you've experienced as well, then we can relate on anything.
Love it, love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I don't know about y'all, but I got a history lesson. I got some free therapy. Thank you all very much. So we're gonna close out now, but before we do, y'all know we need to have some art, a dopamine moment. So I want to bring to the stage songwriter and musician all the way from Kingston, Jamaica, Jovi Rockwell.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Fantastic.
So my name is Jovi Rockwell, and I am from Kingston. Yeah. And I just wanted to say I'm really happy I'm here. I really didn't even know what was really happening. And I feel really happy about being invited, so thanks, you know. And I want to add my 2 cents if I could. I felt like I think we're all here, and that's the common thing. Like, we're here. We can't leave. I mean, most of us can't afford it. I know, but I think we have a desire to see ourselves in each other. And when we don't see it, it affects us. And we react. And there's different reactions. I kind of feel like truth is personal. So I found like learning to trust myself gave me peace so I could deal with anything else. So whatever anybody says, I can see my ego coming. And that's gonna make me disagree. But if I tell the ego like, yo, right now, beat it. I don't care. It's like all of a sudden I can hear you say something that really irks my soul. But it's okay. Because I trust that you know where you're going and I ain't going where you're going. You know what I mean? So yeah. And so yeah, so when I do that, I figured how to just be love or something. Yeah, so can you turn on this? I kind of need it. Right, so anyways, I guess so a guy walks into a bar and yeah, pull that out.
So interesting too. Immediately I'm like going, I just want to put the caveat, like, you know, when I say someone's not going to get it in this lifetime, what the hell does that mean? Right. And that's that judgment thing that you're talking about. That's not for me.
Yeah, I really like what this.
And I really love what you said. It's really touched me. And that reality of just like, we're all just going to die at some point. Yeah. So that's it. That's the only real truth. That's it. It's going to work out however it is.
It's kind of okay, actually.
Just be.
It's kind of okay.
It's so okay.
Even if like somebody like bombs somewhere, I'm just not that's so, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's bigger, like it's kind of a bigger picture. I think it's an opinion, like truth is personal, I guess.
Get it.
So this song is called All About Love. I said I never, ever, 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 ever had this feeling inside before, boy. Whenever I see your face and you give me that warm embrace, said I don't have to wonder why it's true. It's you, my baby. Now, don't you ever hesitate. 'Cause you know we're falling in love. So why don't you take my hand? It's raw, you know what I'm saying? Fall in love. As I don't have to wonder why. It's true. It's you, my baby. It's all about love. All I wanna do is take you there. I want nobody else to take my time. You know, you're always on my mind. Whoa, yeah. It's about the things that matter the most, like you and I. Together we can fly away to that place, 'cause we're going somewhere. Don't you worry, 'cause I know I'm not scared. I like it when I see myself in your eyes. I know it's you, my baby, and I wanna let you know. I feel for you, boy, inside, yeah. And I know I'm not scared, so someone looking, but we got it right here. And then I don't have to wonder why. It's true, it's you, my baby. It's about love. All I wanna do is take you there. I want nobody else to take my time. You know, you're always on my mind. Whoa, yeah. No pretenses, no. Say no regrets, 'cause I'm not gonna regret nothing. No, I'm gonna give you my love. May it be just what you're searching for. Oh, yeah. I wanna give you my love now, baby. So gonna give it to you. Is just take you there. I said I want what I want you to know. It ain't nothing about that love. Whoa, yeah. My peoples, I'ma tell you this. It's about love. Thank you. When you sit so close to somebody like Rosario Dawson, you get a little nervous. Thank you.
Thank you, Jovi. I want to thank all of you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank all of our amazing guests. This was a really fantastic conversation. You all know we like to leave you with a call to action. Number one, my peoples, we like to do election countdowns because it's kind of the biggest thing happening right now. So don't forget, if you are a California voter, if you're registered here in California, primaries are on June 7th, 9 days away.
You can also vote early. You can vote now.
But in addition to that, leading up to and beyond, we really want you to try to start having some challenging conversations, some challenging disagreements, but doing it from a place of love. That's our goal tonight. That's our goal for every night, and we'll be here next Sunday doing the same thing. Love y'all, my people.
Yeah.